Hey everybody, and welcome to Badge Banter, where we feature some incredible stories from our partners throughout the security industry about both the industry as a whole, but also the importance of the ID badge. I'm Lindsay Martin-Nez from Badge Pass, and I'm super excited to introduce today's guest, Chris Randall from Elatec. Hey Chris, thank you for being here.
Hi, Lindsay. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. I'm so glad to have you on today. Before we dive into all the things we're going to talk about, can you tell us a little bit about Elatec and what it is that y'all do?
Yeah, sure. Elatec is a 30-plus-year-old company based out of Germany with offices here in the U.S. as well. And we're a reader module manufacturer, right? So we read 100-plus different types of physical credentials, mobile credentials, NFC credentials. And we're deployed across any number of locations, right? Anywhere that you want to read a credential, validate an identity, and then have that go back through the system. We're there to support that.
I always think of you guys as like the behind the scenes reader guys. Would that be an accurate depiction?
Yeah, I think so. You're not going to see us. You're not going to see a lot of Elatec logos, Elatec stickers on product. We're typically embedded behind the plastics, supporting the OEM manufacturer who's providing that final solution.
Makes sense. So when I think about you guys too, not just as behind the scenes, but I always think about like Elatec and interoperability and that being kind of core to your messaging and ensuring basically that credentials and readers kind of work across every platform. How important would you say interoperability is both to y'all as an organization, but in today's like security landscape?
Yeah, good question. So I think that when you talk about interoperability, it really wasn't sort of a thing in the past, right? Historically, physical security ecosystems are, built, designed, deployed to solve, let's just say, that day or today's problem. And there's not a lot of consideration about interoperability when that's done. And that typically ends up, showing its ugly head when you get out to the edge and you need to take into account other components in your physical environment, whether it's, edge doors, gates, elevators, different systems that are trying to be pulled into your physical access control system. And that ends up driving, multiple cards, right? Which nobody wants. And so I think we see that some industries associated with the physical security system are starting to change, right? You've got the video space, you have OnVev, right? And then even in the access control panel space now, you're seeing a lot of open API for the panels, which is powerful. And I think the cards and readers are dragging a little bit behind. And so that's where we're really focused on, is driving interoperability when it comes to the credentials and the readers on the edge.
Well, I think it's interesting that you say that because it's certainly a trend in the security industry. Everything used to be kind of siloed off. I would say people were kind of operating in their own system, and there was a lot more of around the words like proprietary and closed. There was a lot more of that back in like legacy systems, but now it's like you really have no choice but to have some level of interoperability at least, because I feel like customers expect it more than they used to. Would you say that that's true?
Absolutely. I mean, the reality is a lot of systems are still sold, based on price or ease of installation without that. But I think a lot of the associations involved in the industry, PSIA among others, SIA, right? We're all talking about interoperability. So we're driving a really good message. So our customers who are asking the questions and that are, investigating the solutions are understanding how critical it is for today, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, because the systems do stay a while, right? They grow long roots, and they're going to own them for a long period of time.
Yeah. Well, we certainly hope so when we sell them anyway, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, I would say you guys probably talk a lot. I think one of your strengths is what we're talking about, interoperability and like cross-platform integration between systems. So can you tell us a story or an example about a time when your readers helped really solve a compatibility issue or challenge for one of your customers?
Yeah. Good. So I think it happens all the time, right? But and to answer that, maybe I'll rather than refer to a specific end user, more maybe of a concept or a vertical. And I think they're really sort of leading the whole concept of interoperability and cross-platform. And that would be the higher education market, right? I mean, they're driving the whole one card concept across, massive campuses, right? It's not a traditional enterprise business with 5,000 employees. It's massive campuses with, theoretically 30,000 or 50,000 employees, right? Including students. So in those ecosystems, you see, I think, the widest range of edge devices that are all supporting, similar badging and similar credentials, and have to be super flexible in the types of credentials they read. So I think higher education, you just name it, like pick a higher end university that's gone to a one card solution, and there's your example of how any Fortune 100 company would love to be running their business.
Oh, I agree. I think that whenever I think about credentialing as a whole, the universities is kind of the first place you start to see them use it across multiple systems. But then most organizations, even your small ones, want to apply some of that to their own business. So are you seeing trends around that type of embedded authentication in other non-college markets, in non-traditional devices? So we have talked in the past a lot about embedded devices in printers and print kiosks, and now I've heard about them being in EV chargers, and you guys are involved in all of that, right? Elatec helps enable that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about our history, right, we really were born and grew our business, our IP, our model in the secured print industry, right? So that's your secured printing business, which is still, probably half of our business today. But that has bled over, right, into all of these other areas where an embedded reader module just fits perfect, right? It's authentication at the edge. And you're right, the fun thing about my job, quite frankly, is finding where our product lives, right? And it's in, like you say, kiosks, tool cribs, medical device carts, EV chargers, handheld mobile devices. I mean, they're used for body-worn cameras. A lot of the modules are also being deployed in K through 12 now in schools for identifying students and making sure students are getting on and off buses, single sign-on, multi-factor authentication. So anywhere on the edge, we're living there as, an Elatec embedded product.
That's cool. I think that's really fun, and it's probably cool for you guys. Didn't you also do something with golf balls? Weren't we somewhere? And
Yeah,
maybe we can't say
yeah,
the
it was,
name of
and I can't say the name of it, but it's one of the indoor golf places, and they use our readers and the putters and the balls and on the putting surfaces to track and identify the ball that's associated with you, so all your live scoring updates happen. So again, kind of another neat area that an Elatec embedded, reader rears its head. So super fun. Yep.
And I caught myself before I said the name of it too, so now we don't even have to edit anything, which is perfect. But
Perfect.
no,
Thank
I
you.
think that's probably really cool for you guys. And I love how we can work together so seamlessly, because we're always really focused on how do you issue a credential and make sure that it works seamlessly across multiple applications. And so we're really focused at it from a credential perspective. Obviously, you're focused at it from a reader perspective, but that involves credentials and how it all works together. So that means that I would consider you one of the experts in the industry about ID and credential usage. So in your opinion, how have you kind of seen ID badging and credential issuance evolve over the last few years?
Yeah. Well, thank you for expert. I appreciate that. We'll air quote that. There's plenty of smarter people on credentials than I am. But so what just shocks me, right, is the prolific amount of prox cards that are still out in the market, right? I mean, it's just shocking. 20 years of it, and we all speak to it, but they're still there. It's still a huge chunk of the business. But organizations like SIA or SIA, integrators in general now are talking about the importance of secured credentials. So we're starting to see a migration, especially in maybe a more enterprise level, to smart cards and even owning their own keys, which is critical, right? So we're seeing that transition, and then mobile's kind of after that. So maybe you look at it like prox, and then a smart card, and then mobile. And mobile is getting there too, right? Again, a slow adoption, but I think a lot of that is really generational, right? If you think about the 12, 15-year-olds now that are going to be the decision makers in 7, 10, 12 years, right? They're going to have an expectation that their professional, personal life, it's all seamless, it's all mobile. They won't even understand the concept of why would it not be acceptable. So I think, you know, we're working hard to develop the acceptance today, but I think, you know, with patience and time, we'll see, you know, a major change, a major shift in the
You had
credential
something
market.
that I want to kind of dig out a little bit. As we've been figuring out our strategy from a mobile credential perspective, we've really gotten like in the weeds in a lot of conversations about NFC and how it works and compatibility across platform, and interoperability is the exact reason that people still use procs. Like the more we've dug into NFC and tried to figure out what the right
Yep.
path is for us as an organization, the more we've realized the limitations in interoperability in that space. And the more it's caused, like our head of product development is funny because he came from outside the security industry.
Mhm.
And he's like, this finally just clicked for me while we were researching all this stuff with NFC, why so many organizations still use procs. And it's because it's easy. It works. Like it works with everything.
Yep. Right. Think about it. Right. Even just the converting from a prox card to a smart card. Now you have a, you know, 0.3 second delay oftentimes in reading it. Right. We're used to a prox bang instantaneous. And then when you go to the mobile, all of a sudden there's this, how do we deploy it? How do we assign it? How do we register it? And it is more complicated than it needs to be, but I think that'll change, right? There's a handful of companies out there that are doing some spectacular work around figuring out a better answer, a better deployment answer. There's, you know, you think about, you know, kind of a big shift, right? Think about Google and Apple, right? Going from the consumer market and really sort of, for good or for bad, taking charge of the credential market with their Apple wallet and the desire to have your mobile credential in that wallet. And also now we've got, you know, consumer-based companies getting in the physical access space, and they're revealing some pretty exciting technology, right? But there isn't, I think, super good symmetry on how to get it out to the enterprise, to the end user through the channel, and that'll, you know, I think we'll just have to be patient as those systems get better.
I know. Well, you know, I'm not very patient and I want everything to happen quickly, but unfortunately, it's
Yeah.
not happening as quickly as we'd probably like to see it. And I think it's just because you got a little bit of a legacy mindset of like, this is our lane and we own it happening at the manufacturer level in our
Mhm.
space still.
Yep.
And they want to figure out how they're still going to own that. But in the world of like things being interoperable, you really need to play nice across the board. And it's a little bit less like, I own this space, in my opinion.
Well,
So
and it has to do with that, right? I
yes.
mean, we're used to charging for a credential, right? Here's your plastic card. It costs X number of dollars, whatever it is, and now you've got this mobile. And so how do you monetize that? And you've got to monetize it, I think, through management more than anything else. So it's just a matter of time before there's some really good, easy to use tools to allow that to happen.
Yeah, I hope so. So we could probably talk about mobile credentials all day. But you know, it's a lot to figure out, and I think it's exciting. It's a good opportunity for our industry for sure. I had a different guest on, and we were talking about big players like Apple and Google and other more mainstream companies being involved in the security industry, and she articulated it as we went from being like in the back of the room to being like front of room as a security industry, and like the first topic of conversation, which is a cool way to think about it. And I had never thought of it in that light before. And when I think about mobile credentials in particular, it kind of brings us to the front of the house as far as like we're in conversations now, whereas maybe more before it was kind of like back of house things, security.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to use that.
Yeah. You're welcome. I am too now, obviously, and I just repeated it to you. So it's becoming a thing. All right.
Perfect.
So think about your career in the industry as a whole, taking a break from mobile credentials. What would you say, what's like the most valuable lessons that you've learned about the physical security space during your time at Elatec?
Yeah. Good question. So, well, Elatec and 20 years of the business, but I would tell you that and maybe we touched on it earlier, right? The physical security space is a slow mover, right? And so I think for me, the biggest learning curve or most important thing taken away from it is to understand that it's complex, that there's a lot of different buyers with a lot of different opinions, right? About how physical security should be done, designed, and deployed, right? So you have to understand that. And also really sort of nurturing and maintaining the relationships with people in the industry, because it is small, but it's packed full of super bright, super smart people that, for me personally, are smarter and brighter than I am in the industry. So making sure that I nurture those relationships and maintain those so we can be successful for our customers.
That's true. I do like that. Leveraging good relationships in the industry is important. And I mean, it helps foster better, more interoperable systems for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, so last question as we kind of wrap up. If you had to predict what you think like the biggest shift in access control over the next 5 years will be, what do you think it will be?
Oh boy. Um, it's probably longer than 5 years, right? But shorter than 20. But I think it's around mobile and the edge. I think a lot more things are going to end on the edge, right? A lot more decisions are going to be made at the edge. And I think a lot of it will have to do with mobile, and that's kind of what I was talking about earlier, that idea that you've got these new, this next generation rolling in, and I don't know if it's Z or X or what the next one's called, but, they're rolling in with a completely different perspective, right? They've grown up with an iPad and a mobile phone, not with a notebook and not with a prox card. So their perspective on and expectation on how things are going to work seamlessly is going to be completely different than even the conversations we're having today. So I think edge and mobile is probably there, although there's always going to be, a world for the physical card itself. But I think moving more and more things moving to the edge with less hardware in between, right? We're going cloud, we're going to the edge, and a lot of that infrastructure is going to disappear.
I think that's fair. Well, you heard it here first. If you're right, we'll come back in 10 years and we'll see if your prediction is right.
We'll see.
But I think it's relatively spot on. I mean, I definitely think we're trending that way. I, of course, have been very vocal that it'll always be some type of combination of physical and mobile. But it's why I'm so passionate about figuring out a good strategy for mobile, because I think it's important. It's important.
It's gonna be part of it. Yep.
100%. All right, well, love chatting with you and could do it all day, but unfortunately, we are coming up on time here. So I have to wrap with my favorite segment, though, which is Badge Blitz. And so the way this is going to go, I know you can't prep for it because I don't send you the questions in advance, but I'm going to set a timer for 1 minute. And all you got to do is go with your gut. Just say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Oh, boy.
All right?
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yep.
All right.
Yes.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, boy. Anything by Billy Joel.
Okay. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Early bird.
Okay. What app do you open first thing in the morning?
My work email app.
Oh man, first thing in the morning, really?
I know. That's where it starts. Should be something else. Maybe the weather app. I should just say the weather app. But no, I think it's my work email. Yep.
All right. What is your guilty pleasure snack when you're traveling?
Gummy bears.
Oh, interesting. Do you unpack right away or live out of your suitcase when you're on the road?
Suitcase. In the suitcase. Unless I'm going to be there for a week. Unless I'm going to be there for a week and it's ISC, then I'll put it away. But anything else, it's straight out of the bag.
No way. You can't live out of your suitcase. Like, you got to hang it up.
No.
All right.
Straight out of the suitcase.
All right.
That's why you buy fabrics that don't wrinkle. Non-wrinkle fabrics.
That's fair. That is fair. That does make it easier. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully those questions were painless for you. But it was fun chatting. It's always good to kind of chat about the industry and learn more about what Elatec is doing. If people want to connect with you, how should they do that?
So C.Randall at elatec.com. is a great way to contact me. Phone number is 949-282-4511. Always answer it. And then just general information about Elatec, go to elatec.com, and you'll see kind of everything that's going on in our world too.
Awesome. Well, really appreciate your time. Thanks again so much for being here, Chris.
Thank you. Thanks, Lindsay.
And to everybody else, we hope you'll join us next time as we take you beyond the badge.